Hey girl. So today I'm going to be talking about my journey and just everything that I've been going through in life, how I am on a journey with God, and just where I've been, what's been going on, and what is it looking like towards in the future. I do want to start off with a little disclaimer. I am super uncomfortable right now. Yeah, this is new for me because I just, y'all know, I always tell y'all, oh, I'm gonna let y'all know, oh, I'm gonna talk about it, oh, I'm gonna do this. And I just never get to it just because I have had a lot of fears and I just didn't know where to start. So I do want to start off by saying before we get into the video that this is a safe space. My channel will be a safe space. I want my channel to be a safe space. Um, I pray that this can stay a no judgment zone, that we all can give our opinions and we can talk about things and kind of communicate, uplift each other, and just show love all around. I am letting you in on my trials and then telling you my testimonies. I am living in my truth, and it took a while for me to get here. So with that, please, I ask that we keep the negativity out of here. That's not welcome, because I feel like internet bullying is a thing. Internet bullying, it has become so bad to where I feel like people want you to be a certain type of person and people can't authentically be themselves. And then, you kind of don't get a certain version of a person. And I want to stay as authentic to myself as possible. If y'all see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at myself. I don't know. Okay. But I do want to start off by saying as well, girl, if you're new here, welcome. I am so glad you're here. This is a little different from the other videos that I have had. I have been on this journey of trying to find myself. So welcome, because you're kind of getting the gist in the beginning of who I am and who I'm becoming. If you are a returning subscriber, I do want to say, girl, I'm so sorry. I have been all over the place. I have not been consistent. I have been MIA. I know you guys have really wondered, like, girl, where have you been? What's going on? Like, you're here and then you're not. And a lot of you have really stepped by my side. Y'all have kind of seen little things. If you follow me on Instagram, you kind of have seen like little bits and pieces, but I'm very private in a sense about my business. And I've been very, very private, secretive about everything that's been really going on with me. Just because I have been scared of judgment, which we'll get into that. This is very new for me because I am not a person that enjoys, how can I say, just the emotional feeling of being vulnerable. It freaks me out. Like, I'm trying to get away from zodiacs and stuff, but I am a Gemini. Okay, June 9th. I am at a place in my life where everything feels new. Just please, guys, be understanding. Just be patient with me, okay? I do love you guys. I love your support. Thank you so much. We are on the road to 4K. I know that seems small, but to me, y'all, that is such a big deal because, excuse me, 4,000 people like me. Let's go ahead and get into this because I was very emotional this morning. I was super emotional, and I do want to start off with saying this too. I've never thought that I'll be the person to be like, God this, God that's, and I'm not pushing faith. I'm not pushing anything on anyone. But I will be clear that I am in my journey on getting closer to God. So I will not like silence that in me. If I feel the need to be like, God has done this, I'm going to say it. And I really want that to be an understanding that if you're here, just know I will never push my faith on anyone. I do hope that if you're going through something similar, or if you're going through something, I hope that what I'm going through and maybe my trial or my story can help you along your journey. I'm just gonna get into it. So I want to start off, and I do have notes because I was writing this morning and I was just like, okay, God has been calling me to talk to you guys for a long time, since I want to say me and Jordan, no, since I made my YouTube. When I made my YouTube, in the most difficult time in my life. I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Jordan. I was in the most turmoil relationship. It was just traumatic. If you was around, girl, you know, North Carolina, military, you know I was going through it. And I was going through it within myself, battling who I am and trying to keep a person around I didn't want to be around, and just hanging on to broken promises all the time. I was in, just the most vulnerable state that I could ever be in, and I really was just trying to find peace somewhere. So I started watching YouTube videos, and somewhere along the line it helped me, and I was like, women documenting their pregnancy and then kind of documenting like motherhood. I really enjoyed that. So at first that was the base of my channel. That was my niche. I went missing. Then I came back probably a few years later, and I kind of start trying to document. I was like, I want to be this kind of girl. I want to show my motherhood. But then, I was like, okay. I wasn't comfortable. Then I tried, just kind of being the girl that, just trying to document like a certain side of me. Like it wasn't me being something I wasn't. It was just documenting that fun side of me that, I'm going out, I'm having fun. But then I wasn't happy with that side of me either. Then it was me and my man. We were creating a couples channel, and that was cool. But I do feel like with a couples channel, it was bringing a lot of frustration into our relationship, because for one, I was the editor. I was the one that was doing a lot of editing, and as you know, editing can take hours. And when you're trying to like stay consistent, and y'all are already going through y'all relationship stuff, it would be days where we're trying to figure us out, where we're trying to figure life out. COVID happened. It was just so much. So we weren't consistent. We did do a lot of like challenges, and we were trying to do the pranks, but pranks get real. I didn't realize that a lot of them couples don't be being real with their pranks. They be fake. Well, we were doing something totally different, and it was touching different avenues, and it just became difficult. Then I started documenting my pregnancy, when I got pregnant with Callie, and I was recording videos, and it was just, I was all over the place, and I did not realize how big life, how hard life would hit me, right? Let's just see, that's what I'm saying, y'all. I'm all over the place, but I'm gonna try to stay on track. So I don't want to quite get into that, but let's just say I didn't realize how hard life would hit me after having my daughter, Callie. And that's where I just Yeah. So, first, I want to start by saying having faith was more like a transaction for me. When I say that, it was more like, okay, God, if you can, do this for me, I promise I'll never do this. If you could do this, I'll never do this. Or I felt like, if I pray for a certain amount of time, that God would answer my prayers. And then I'm not going to lie, like, God does favor me. I will say that, because I will pray and he will show me. I've always prayed, right? I've always talked to God, but I had expectations of God, and there'll be times where they weren't met, and I'm like, no, I don't, no, there. I don't, or if somebody was just too godly, it was just like too much for me. So really having faith was more like a transaction for me. Like, look, we got to stay positive. If we keep, praying to God, then this will happen. And, we see it happening, but it wasn't like I was ready to put in any work other than praying for the things that I needed. Right. So I always felt God in my life, but I didn't know him. And I can't sit here and say I didn't want to know him, but I wasn't ready to take those steps in knowing him. So when I say that, like, I had a really rough childhood. And when I say really rough, like, I battled this, right? I battled going into details about things that I have been through. I battled going into details about my mother and my father, and maybe one day those will come about, but right now, I am in protection mode of my mother and my father. I have forgiven them, and this is on that journey, for the things that they went through and during their trials, and that's their story, but I did live through things, and things did affect me. So it's still like a little seesaw effect where I'm like, do I really want to tell the internet though? Like, all that. So I'm just going to summarize it as I was definitely the child of two rebels. I was a rebel. I was definitely a child of two parents that felt neglected as children. I am definitely a child of two parents that never been together, but had a good night one night and made me. I'm definitely a child of poverty. Like, yes, I had aunts. I mean, I had an aunt that took care of me, that allowed me to come into her home. And I also had an aunt that, was there for me in a way that, I had an aunt that was always there, trying to be there because she knew my situation, and, always just showed me love and that tender side of a person. I really, I was raised also by my grandmother. Like, I love my grandmother to death. My grandmother was there for me and always protected us. My grandfather, he protected us. And I'm also the child of a mom that was just trying to figure it out. She was hurt. She was going through a lot. And there was times where she wasn't present, not because she didn't want to be, but because life was taking its journey with her. And not everybody make decisions to be the right decisions, but I will say I know my mom loves us so much. She definitely cares, but it's just, y'all, the 80s, the 90s was the time, okay? But I do know what it feels like not to have. I do know what it feels like to not have lights in our home. I do know what it feels like to not have food in the refrigerator, eating syrup sandwiches. Okay, I do know what it feels to want both of your parents there and you not have that at all. I do know what it feels like to pray for a father because the father that we thought was, molested me. I do know what that feels like. I do know what it feels like to be taken advantage of at a young age. And I did hold a lot of pain, and I will put it to the back and be like, I'm strong, this, that, and the third, I'm this. And I've always kind of tried to put off my pain by making others laugh. And so let me make that clear. Y'all may see me smile, but it's like laughing at your own pain kind of, but like it's because I got through it, and I'm like, oh, whoa, I got through that. So I will say I didn't know God, but that's one thing my mother did make sure of, that she kept God in our life. She made sure that we knew how to pray. She made sure that she, will always tell us about, she taught us how to pray. She taught us how to call on God when we were at our lowest, when we would feel down, and she taught us how to be thankful for the things that we did have. And I was always thankful for anything. Somebody could give me the smallest thing and I would just be so thankful for those things. So I'm grateful for that. My mom always made sure she came through for Christmas. Christmas was an amazing time of the year where I can't sit here and say that I didn't feel love around that time. I didn't feel happy around that time. So there was a lot with that. And I'm thinking about making this into a series. Disclaimer, thinking about making this into a series because I do feel like I am not about to sit here and spend all this time talking about my whole life. But if y'all do want to hear the things that I've been through, y'all do kind of want to hear like the different points in my life that I have now accepted as being just, that was a trial and time. That was a test. Those were all tests to get me here, this woman, today. I think the toughest thing about growth is learning that I was damaged. That I was a damaged woman. The toughest thing was learning that you're not okay. Okay? And I was in the military, but towards me getting out, I didn't have a great relationship with my mother. Me and my father, we weren't good. And I was in a really bad relationship. So I think around that time I was going through a lot of emotions, and I kind of start unraveling, right? And I started getting a little help, and during all that, I found out I have PTSD. I found out that I have ADHD, and it's definitely something I had as a child. That I do remember it was one of those things where it did come up, but Black homes, they were like, my child ain't crazy, okay? My child is okay. She just needed focus. She just needed, and it was looked at as one of those things. It wasn't looked at as a real thing. And having ADHD, especially in a child, is something that definitely needs to be, how can I say, it needs to be, taken care of. It needs to be addressed, okay? Because you have to learn how to manage that as a child, with medication, without medication. But I will say, me not having that help I was forced to figure a lot of things out, and things were very hard for me at times where I had no control, and I did get my butt. I got beat, okay, for half of the stuff that I didn't even know, okay? I was called names because times just seemed like I wasn't getting it in school, or it, stupid, dumb, whatever. And I started feeling that, so I think anything I always set my mind to, I could do. I could definitely do. It may took me a lot more tries, or me having to figure out other ways of doing things, but I will figure it out. I could do it. Anything that I wanted to succeed in, I could succeed in. The military was pretty easy. I can't wait to tell you about that journey, but like, it was pretty easy at first. Just the whole soldiering and being fussed at and all this, and having to be like, just take that in. That was second nature, because I was already used to the fussing, the yelling. That won't nothing to me. Like, baby, you gonna have to get to me a different type of way. So, we'll get into that, but I just had to learn how to admit that I'm a damaged woman. So I said I didn't know God, but I will say I did know the enemy a lot more. I knew ways of manipulating. I knew being spiteful. I knew revenge. I knew, just very negative ways of survival. I knew survival, more than I knew how to just live in peace. And that was my goal. Like, I have to survive. But there was no direction. There was no foundation. And I really wasn't taught certain things that a lot of my peers were taught. And there was a sense of I wasn't good enough. And there was a sense that I had to do a lot of this to get that, and I'm sorry if I'm being very vague. I just, like I said, this is new, it's uncomfortable, and I'm trying. Okay, so work with me. So I will say I didn't know the enemy more. Like, I would listen to, girl, you need to do this, and someone would be in my ear like, don't. But I'm gonna do it, because I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it, and God, he made a way for me to do it, and it's that third, but that did not. It was always, it's kind of like Rumpelstiltskin, okay? I'm gonna give you this, but best believe you owe me. And it will always come back in pain. It didn't matter what it was. If I wasn't doing something right, it always came back in pain. So these past few years, I have, they really been heavy on my mind, body, and soul. Like, literally my mind, body, and soul. I do suffer from depression, anxiety, like I said, PTSD. I have ADHD and OCD. Yeah. So with all that, I started to lose my identity, right? And all of those titles became who I was. It became my identity. Like, anywhere I go, I had anxiety bad. I couldn't even go to one of my daughter's friends' birthday parties without being around other parents and feeling like, oh my God, like, get away from me, don't talk to me. And depression really became who I am. And that's not me in a sense, but it was. So I have been going to therapy. I was not consistent in therapy at first, but I am now consistent. I still need to dig deeper into things, and it took me a while to get here. I remember I kind of started this journey of therapy in 2008. Um, that's where I kind of had to start taking anger management. I was in Korea, and I mean, it wasn't successful, but it started. That's where I should have known, like, girl, something wrong with you, because who need anger management? You got something going on. So that was me, and I kept telling myself, I was like, I ain't angry. I'm a happy person. It's just I don't play that. But that's not okay. Okay, girl, if you walking around here with a chip on your shoulder, and I mean you just mad, or certain things fire you up, you may need to get a little help, and that's okay. Therapy does not mean you're crazy. And honestly, sometimes it's good to talk to somebody that you don't know, that does have a license, okay? That is how can I say, certified in their profession. Okay, don't just be talking and tell your business to anybody, because some people just nosy and they just be in your business. And I did go through a lot of different therapists, because you have these therapists that's like, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, and I'm like, what are you laughing for? Girl, you don't know me. You ain't been through this before. Like, I can't relate to you. So then there was the part of me where I was feeling, this is just too much, because I would tell my story and it would be grown men crying. And I'm like, you're my therapist. What is you crying for? And like I said, I didn't realize how damaged I was. I didn't realize how much I've been through, and that was not normal. I did used to surround myself around people that was just as damaged as I was. And that is not healthy. That's trauma bonding. And we can't do that. We can't trauma bond. Okay. So, girl, I admit I was lost. I was lost in trying to improve what was broken on my own. I was trying to do it on my own. So, I was like, okay, well, I got to do this. I got to do that. And I did not know where to start. I didn't know what to do. And I think that's where, like, I was upset. I mean, I was accepting a lot. And it was one of those moments where I would feel a lot of pain, and I could be crying, I could be hurting, and it was a matter of, I definitely would accept God when I was going through hard times, and I was accepting of God when I was in pain, and I wanted a change, and I really, it was like I was accepting of God when I was at my lowest, which that's most of us, right? We find God when we're at a low point, which he's waiting. Okay, he is definitely waiting when you're at that low point. But it's also when you're at your high that you keep him, right? And that's the part that I was not ready for. So I was definitely using God to heal me in the moments, but I was not ready to keep him around and dedicate my heart to God, if that makes sense. I was so busy trying to get my heart to the wrong people. Okay, so I just wasn't ready. I remember more recently there was a time where I felt like, and y'all do not come for me for this, because like I said, this is something that I was going through in a moment, and I was trying to figure it out. But there was a time where I was like, girl, going to church is not for me, because it's full of hypocrites. Those are the same people that's always judging people. I did feel like a lot of people in the church were the same people that was condemning people. That was, you're going to hell. You're going to hell for this. You are going to hell for that. And I'm like, isn't that something that we're not supposed to be doing? Aren't we? Are we not supposed to be judging people off of what they do, how they act? What, is one thing to kind of be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to pray for this person, or if somebody did come to church, but they wasn't living this whole, it was like, I felt like the crowd of people that was in the churches, or they were always condemning people. These Christians were condemning people, and it really had me like turning away. And I feel like that, I feel like that was not of God. And I wasn't happy with that feeling. Like, that I was being judged. And you could feel it when you walked into a church. Like, you could feel being judged, when you walked into the church. And I felt like that was not okay, So for that, I was like, I'm not attending church. I'm not going to do any of that. And it's just not for me. Yeah. So I just was like, I wasn't going, because I felt like there was hypocrites. It was a lot of people that I felt like were sleeping with each other, the pastors. It was just, I'd seen some crazy stuff. Okay. Used to watch Fatal Attraction, all those shows and stuff. And when I tell you, it's a lot of pastors on there with some wicked ways. That's what that was for me. I'm just like, I'm not ready to accept that, and I thought everybody also in turn, like, if you're in church, you have to be, if you're a pastor, you should be perfect, but I'm learning it's not the person, right? Because God would talk to you through whoever. You just gotta listen and be able to be humble in yourself and move from it. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. But you go because that's something that God is calling you to do. I also have tried my hardest to read the Bible. Just open up the Bible and read it. And girl, I don't think I got past Genesis 3. It was hard for me, and it was just so like, oh, it was a challenge. And I don't think that it interests me. It was just a bunch of uninterested things going on. So the reading the Bible was challenging for me. Praying seemed like it was wrong. When I prayed, y'all, I was like, oh, I don't even know how to pray. I ain't one of those people. You know how you at Thanksgiving or something, you have like that family member that can pray over a meal, and oh, they are praying like that was a good prayer. No, I was more or less like, God is great, God is good. Let me thank you for our food. By hands without fed, give the Lord daily prayer. Amen. Thank God. That's the prayer you want? Good. I don't know. And I just felt like you had to be perfect when praying to God. And again, like I said, not realizing I had been praying my whole entire life. But these were all reasons, right, that I'm creating in my heart and in my mind that I'm not ready for God. And when I get my whole self together, that's when I'll start doing these things for God. When I get myself together, that's when I'll start, on my journey with God. Well, I got to a point where I felt alone. And I started isolating myself. And I know a lot of my family can be a witness, but I'm going to say this: when God is trying to sit you down and God is pulling on you to be closer to Him, baby, everything else is going to feel heavy. I was going through postpartum, and I got to a point to where that feeling of postpartum stayed with me. It didn't leave me. Nothing made me feel better. Nothing made me feel safe. Nothing made me feel wanted. Everything made me feel like I was a disappointment, you know, in parenting, in my relationship, in life, with family. You know, I felt like I was being pulled in every way. So I started isolating myself. I didn't like being on the phone as much. I don't like being on the phone as much because, y'all, I mean, I'm just not that girl no more. I don't like being on the phone 24/7. I don't know what it is. I ain't got time for that, okay? I'm a stay-at-home mom, and that's a lot. That is a lot, okay? And then when you're already going through all these emotional pulls and turmoils and all this stuff, and it's coming to the forefront, it's a lot. Don't nobody got time to be on the phone 24/7. But I will say I'm blessed to be loved enough to where people do want to talk to me. So, you know, I started becoming more miserable because I started trying to please people, and I knew that, like, in me trying to please other people, I wasn't showing up. Like, so if it was somebody's birthday and I'm like, you know, oh, I gotta go to this person's birthday, you know, but then next thing you know, I'm like literally showing up 30 minutes before the birthday party is over. And that just wasn't me, you know, and I battled with that a lot. Or, you know, there was, it was a Thanksgiving or a Christmas, and I was supposed to do something for a family member, you know, and it took so long for me to do it because my mind and everything, it wasn't that I didn't want to do it. I was doing it more or less to please them. And I was also trying to still make this food and that food. And then it was just also trying to be, I felt like it was my job as a mom to take on all responsibilities of, you know, motherhood. If I wasn't doing this, that's not good. You know, he shouldn't have to do this. I have to do this, you know. And I think I was in a fight mode of, it was control in a sense. Like, I have to have control over this. I have to have control over cleaning. I have to have control over, you know, if I'm not this kind of mom and if I'm not doing it all, then he's going to think I'm not a good mom, which I will say Jordan has never told me that I wasn't a good mom. Jordan has always praised me on being the mother that I am. And he's always tried to tell me, like, you are amazing as a mother, you know. Now there was things that I was doubting myself as far as motherhood, and I felt like I could do better because yes, I was there and I would always do, but I felt like I'm not there in the way that I want to be there. I'm not present in the way that I want to be present. I'm not showing up in the way that I want to show up. And emotionally, I feel drained all the time that I feel like I can't even give the emotions that I want to unless it's frustration. And that broke me a lot when it came to being a mom. Because the one thing about being a mom, I feel like my babies are my everything. Being a mom is the one thing that I feel like God has given me. And I don't want to get on here and just like be crying, because that's not what this is. But like, when it comes to my babies, y'all, those are that's my world. And feeling like I'm failing at being a mom, it was very hard for me. And it took tolls on me, you know, because instead of responding in the way that I wanted to, I responded a lot with frustration. And I responded, you know, to a lot of things by shutting down. And I mean, you ask my girls, they know I love them, but like, they have seen me depressed. They have. And that alone will depress you even further. it would depress me when I had to discipline them. It would depress me in anything. Like, I just felt like I was doing it all wrong, and I felt like I wasn't doing enough, and I felt like I needed to be more for them, and I needed to give them things, or I should be a certain type of person by this time in my age. And it was just tough. I never felt good enough growing up, so in everything I just didn't feel good enough, in those things either. And that's something a lot of people don't know. A lot of people may think, oh, that girl was confident. No, I was not. It was a facade. I will say, growing up, I felt I was always unhappy. I was hurt, and wanted to feel a over amount of love. Like, I always dreamed to have like this perfect life where both parents were there, and I just wanted patience. I wanted time. I wanted to feel more love than anger, because it had turned me angry, and it made me like not understand. It made me not understand what it is to be loved, what it feels, what it is to like, I don't know, y'all. It's just when you want a certain amount of attention and you don't get it from the one that you want to get it from, because they going through their own journey, but you don't understand that at that age. It creates something in you where like you are very upset and you become very angry. And I was always a happy kid, and it was a time where I felt like I was taking on responsibilities that I took care of my little sisters all the time. I don't know. I can't, like, it's been a lot, right? And I felt like I didn't know how to be a mom, because I felt like that example wasn't shown to me completely. I knew what I didn't want to be. I was scared to have kids because I felt like I was going to be mean, and I felt like I was going to be selfish. I felt like I was going to be aggressive, and there has been times I have been all of those things, but through hurt, and don't get it twisted, guys. Like, I always show up for my babies, but it's just not the way that I want to. So when you're looking on the outside, and like anybody can be like, yo, you're a great mom, but I don't feel like that, because this isn't the mom that I want to be. And no, nobody is the perfect mom. Like, I had to realize that you're not going to be the perfect mom, but there is a certain mom, there's a vision of a mother that I want to be. I want to have those one-on-one mommy days, and there was a time I just couldn't give it to them. I couldn't. I was feeling guilt. I was so busy feeling sorry for everything that little me went through that I couldn't pour all of that into those girls at a certain point, because I'm so busy feeling guilt. I didn't know this. I didn't learn this. And I'm so mad, and I don't know how. So that became an issue, and where people be like, what about your friends? Don't you have friends? I have a friend. I have had plenty of friends growing up, but you kind of gotta decipher who sticks around, who doesn't, right? Y'all, I'm about to put it on because hold on.